Hello.
Hello.
We've arrived in Gatlinburg.
Here we are in Tennessee, Gatlinburg.
Yes, to the Ripley's aquarium of the Smokies.
So we're going to do a tour through the aquarium. We'll do a wrap up, kind of what we liked, what we didn't like as much, and kind of give you a Handy Andy and Cal Turtle's opinion of Ripley's.
Yeah, go see some fish.
Yeah. Hey guys, here we are at Ripley's of the Smokies. So we're going to be doing a few aquarium tours throughout the country, just kind of how two guys that run a fish store like the aquariums and what they have.
Yeah, looking at their selection, health of the fish, everything like that. Just going through and sharing our thoughts. This is a big Atlantic tank here right when you walk into the lobby.
So if you ever go down to the Caribbean, this is a lot of the fish that you would see down in the Keys, the tip of Florida. There's a beautiful queen angel.
Yeah, and a lot of these fish, people are always asking, like, can you get this type of fish? Can you get this type of fish? Pretty much yes. If it's not protected, there's a good chance if you see it at a public aquarium, we can get it. Here's some big freshwater red hooks.
So here's a good example of what we cannot get here in Kentucky. We are not allowed to get red belly piranhas. So that is something that looks beautiful, but no can do there.
Then over here, it's kind of got a South American theme going, so we go and see some dart frogs. I actually used to keep some of these green and black dart frogs. They're a lot of fun. It's kind of like a reef tank almost, where you're doing all the live plants.
Beautiful colors.
Yeah, the colors on these guys are absolutely insane. Letting all the predators know that they're deadly poisonous, but they're actually not poisonous in captivity. It's from the ants they eat in the wild. Then this is another really cool one, and we stock these are banded archerfish. I think I've got two over there in the store right now.
And mud skipper.
Yeah, and that's another one people have no idea. I see mud skippers on my price lists all the time. So if there's a weird fish you want, let us know. We can probably get it.
Definitely unique.
Yeah, the mud skippers are just a type of goby that goes on land and hunts little bugs and sifts through the mud.
Little axolotl seems to be very common and a popular one these days. Wish they would have had more in there. But
yeah, they went with the leucistic, not the natural color.
We're at the eel tank, not the eel pit. They had 3 or 4 different varieties in there, some beautiful squirrel fish, but they were pretty good sized, girthy eels. It's a pretty neat tank too, with a rounded front like that.
Yeah, it was hard to see them because you really have to crawl under it, but it gives you that opportunity to crawl under it and kind of see how they naturally hide and burrow.
They do like to be in the caves and crevices, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting, like you said, look, just the way it was curved, and they were a little harder to see just because of that, but still a lot of cool little intricate caves for them to hide in.
Yeah, I love those hi-hat drums.
We got the sea nettles here, all that little white specks in the background, that's all baby brine shrimp. That's what they eat. But little type of jellyfish here, you can see them motorboating around.
So this is one of my favorite displays they had, actually, just because it's such an odd one. You don't really see filter feeding fish in captivity, especially not when they're actually filter feeding. So this was super cool. It was actually a giant oval tank with like a false wall, so the school of fish would disappear behind the wall and then they'd come out on the other side like a conveyor belt. Super neat to see.
Here we got some Rhinopeus. So this is one I was thinking they could do a little better, just the colorfulness of the Rhinopeus. I know we can get the purples and reds. It's still a very cool fish to see, as frilly as they are, but they had some bland colors.
Yeah, and then back here this is a Popeye sea goblin. But for as cool as these Rhinopeus are, this is one I could have next week from our next video. This is a red Rhinopeus. But we see these on price lists every day. So to go to a public aquarium and just see some brown ones was a little disappointing.
Yeah, those guys are cool, the sea robins there. But again, with it being the color of a rock and just kind of hides in there, they weren't as vibrant as we could definitely get them in and see them on a regular basis.
This one was pretty interesting, and we actually can get these too. They're called walking toadfish. I've seen them in shops once or twice over the years. But they are just a giant blocky fish that kind of hops around the bottom with those little legs.
Got a huge mouth, so they can eat just about anything.
Yeah, ghost shrimp's the secret to getting these guys to eat well in captivity. Then they'll switch to krill.
So these are the giant filtration systems that they have. Unfortunately, there was really nothing that described what went where or anything along those lines of how they filter it, other than the gallons of our that they do run through there.
Yeah, I'm guessing those are big sand filters and probably hooked up to different systems. But right beside that, they did have this little display of what's filtering the water out in the wild. These tube anemones were super good looking.
Yeah, they were pretty big. We don't see them that large that often, but great color to them. Lots of sponges in here. This is just kind of basically a filter feeding tank, essentially. Just all of these little critters in here will grab it out of the water column and soak it up.
The secret to keeping a lot of these guys in captivity is just pumping your tank full of phytoplankton. The sponges especially. The tube anemones will actually eat a little bit chunkier foods. But then right beside that, you get your first look at their big saltwater pond from this angle. And that awesome sawfish. Those guys are super cool. They're actually a species of stingray, just based on gill placement.
And we'll see that later on. We get a underneath picture, but the sharks have as you can see right there, the gills on the side, where the rays have it underneath. That was actually something I learned from you while we were there.
Mm-hmm. So this tank is super cool, but this is probably one of the bigger issues I had with the aquarium was it's just so dark. This schooling fish here is awesome to see in a big school with the sharks, but the tank is just so dark compared to some of the other tanks.
Yeah, so if you look up at the top, there's one row of LEDs on the left side of the tank, and the rest of it has nothing.
Yeah, and then also the boat. It's cool if you go on the boat, but for everyone else, it's just a giant boat in the way.
And I think because of how small it is, the boat just really takes up a ton of room.
Yeah, it takes about a fourth of the tank. But then over here with these little Cortez rays, you can really see just how terrible the lighting is. With all the different sheets of glass and acrylic here, just the glare is all over the place. It's so dark.
So here we got an African cichlid tank. A lot of these we see regular basis. That's
Sex fasciatus, big banded freshwater fish. They're pretty nippy, so they do really well with cichlids from the same areas too.
But yeah, a lot of the regular stuff we see here at the shop.
Yeah, sunshine peacock there. A lot of mbunas. It's just mixed African tank with all your captive bred varieties.
I did like the tank being a cylinder kind of tucked into the tree root like that. That was kind of a cool looking, just the texture of it.
Yeah, it was a cool tank, but not very African with that tree root.
Now this was one of my favorite. The red tail cats there, I know they get huge, but they're definitely one of my favorites. You can see how large that pacu is.
Yeah, the red tails are at least pretty, but the pacu just gets so big and not the nicest looking fish.
There's an arapaima laying down in the back there. You can see how large they are. They were very friendly though. The ripsaw catfish. You see a Motoro?
Motoro stingray. Yeah, then there were some other stingers in there too. But yeah, definitely the
beautiful silver arowana there.
Rays.
Another cat.
They had so many red tails in here. I bet these were rehomes, if I had to guess.
Yeah. There's the ripsaw cat.
Yeah, this was Andrew's favorite. And then here's some of those stingrays. This one I believe is a Henley. But then moving on to the potbelly seahorses. These guys were awesome. Yeah, the potbelly seahorses are super cool. They're probably one of the largest seahorse species. But to me, even cooler in this tank, they had some ornate boxfish. I'm not sure if we can actually get these. Have you ever seen these on any price lists?
I'm not sure. We'll have to take a peek at that.
Yeah, these are just such an odd fish. I would love to get these in the shop.
Beautiful markings.
Yeah, so you can definitely tell the males and females too, I'm guessing. The male, he had like a giant blue face, like
tail.
Yeah, the tail too, yeah, that bright yellow. But yeah, this was the only one that was actually kind of hanging out, going slow at the bottom so I could film it.
Ornate is definitely an understatement. The colors and the texture and the pattern on them was just beautiful.
Yeah, the thorns, the stripes, they were an awesome fish. They also had this giant reef tank, which we see a lot of our aquarium favorites.
This is probably my favorite tank of the whole aquarium. Big bugs there. We got one of those in the tub. But just a lot of the things that we see on a regular basis grown out. A pyramid butterfly there. Since Hawaii shut down, we don't see those very often. Hippo tang swimming away. Beautiful Dulcimeri tang or mata tang. I think it's a mata tang there. Huge though. There's a Dulcimeri. Quite large. That thing was probably 2 feet front to back.
Yeah, this is something you really want to consider because we do stock these fish, and this is the full potential of these guys.
You see the Vilmingi or the unicorn tangs over there. I mean, again, 2 foot front to tail, just and as thick as it was too. Large fish. Beautiful Niger trigger up there. You can see the male blue, or with the green in the throat there. Coal tangs there. Hopefully Hawaii opens back up and we can see those guys again.
But yeah, super diverse tank. Here you can see some vampire tangs with those little bite marks on their side, also called Tanidi. Orbiculate batfish, full grown, not with the cool fins like you see in the stores.
Quite large.
Yeah, massive. The pyramid butterfly there again. We just got some of those in last week. Little purple tang there. Big purple tang, but small in comparison to all these other species. Then there it is, the Sohal tang. That's definitely one of the showstoppers in this tank.
They're just so eloquent when they swim.
Yeah, I love the reddish they get, the blues, the reds, the stripes.
That orange scalpel on the back tail is a great color contrast with the blue and white.
Yeah, and these are one that we can definitely get, but they are very, very mean in home aquariums.
Especially when they get that size, they get very territorial.
Yeah, you almost need a tank this size to let them spread out. That was a funny one. There was a little tiny bicolored dwarf angel in this tank too.
I enjoyed the size difference. Some of those little tangs and little angels were, 2-3 inches up to the monsters that were 2-3 feet. There was something pretty much all size range in this tank.
Yeah, it's fish only. All the coral is fake, but that means they can get kind of some of the less reef safe. There was a tusk fish hiding back there.
A lot of Heniocus butterflies, some Pakistani butterflies.
Big old fox face here. But yeah, and it was cool to see all the butterflies actually grazing on the fake coral too.
Hiding in it. I didn't expect that as much. They really took it as a home and just like those staghorn fake corals as a hideout.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense with how tall the Heniocus are with that tall dorsal fin. That really looks natural in the acroskeletons.
Yeah, they just hide out in there and make it their home. But they had a great diversity of tangs. Desjardinis, powder blues, powder browns. There's a clown tang. They had both regular and blonde naso tangs. There's one right there. A couple different triggers. There's a Picasso. But yeah, the little Picasso there, they had several different triggers. Once again, this was just one of my favorites. As you can see, lots of people enjoyed it. But the diversity, had a lot of different schooling fish, the tangs. A lot of what we see regularly in the shop here was in there on a full-grown display, interacting with each other, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's another reason as doing these videos as kind of like an educational tool of I want this tang. It's well, just so you know, here's a full-grown adult. Bugs there, It's going to be a very, very big fish eventually, so something to consider.
But this tank was in that same area with the big reef.
Yeah, the leafy sea dragons, they're always one of our favorites. These guys, I actually read a Reef Builders article a couple years ago. I don't know if it's still like this, but I heard that one guy once a year was allowed to go take one pregnant male out of the wild, bring it into captivity, let it give birth, and then he had to go put the male back, and then he was allowed to raise the babies. That's kind of where all the public aquariums get their stock from. They're
quite distinct, though. They have a very different look to them, very majestic, slow-moving creature.
Yeah, that long dragon-shaped head is such an interesting fish.
Well, here we are in the shark tank tunnel underneath what we saw before with the sawfish. Got a couple different sharks in here, nurse sharks. There's some leopard sharks moving around in here. There's one right there.
So yeah, this was one of our favorite tanks and one of our least favorite, unfortunately, just because the lighting was so weird. I absolutely love the sawfish. There you can see the gills kind of in its armpits, and he was definitely a male there too.
But you can see in that shot right there how shaded the tank was and just wasn't very vibrant.
Yeah, most public aquariums would be blasting this with light where you can really get a good view of the animals, not just kind of silhouettes and kind of grayed out look at them.
But yeah, that was probably our biggest complaint of this tank. Gorgeous. These are very beautiful sharks. And this one obviously being a fish, but just couldn't see a lot very well.
But yeah, sawfish will always be one of my favorite just because they are one of those weird in-betweens. But if you look kind of right in his armpits of his fins, those are his gills there. That identifies him as a stingray, not a shark. There are actually saw sharks out of Japan where their snout kind of fuses straight into their head and they have gills on the side.
The irony of that is the shark is about half the size of the fish. I find it kind of funny that the sawfish is bigger than the saw shark.
Yeah, they're much smaller. The sawfish, some of those get 20 feet long, absolutely massive.
There's some tarpon down there. That's something you don't often see at an aquarium, so that was cool.
Yeah, but that's another one I have seen on price lists. You can actually get juvenile tarpon on the freshwater side.
Some other of the sharks there. They had an okay selection of sharks. There's a big gray angel there. That thing was the size of a dinner plate, if not bigger. They had a lot of the schooling fish like that, the pork fish. And
Yeah, all the little grunts and jacks.
there they were laying on top of the tunnel for us to see. There's the glass boat that we kind of had to...
Unavoidable.
Yeah, just... Look, if you're on it, it's probably pretty cool, but with as small as it was just in the way.
Yeah, like if it was the Georgia Aquarium, I would get a boat there, but like it just doesn't justify the boat with the space. This one was awesome to me. I love my gar. This is an alligator gar in full salt water. This was in the same shark tank.
Yeah, they kind of divided it off, but same water there. You see a hogfish, but that gar just right on top of you, just staying in wait for food to come.
Then leaving the shark tube, you come out into kind of like a big open play area.
Yeah, a lot of kiddie zone type deal.
And these porcupine puffers, they're a great one for that. Everybody loves to see them. And they'll actually kind of interact with you through the glass.
They definitely like the attention.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about
They'll
that.
follow your fingers. They were loving the camera coming right up.
Love to see the filtration on this. Was as many puffers as there were in the one tank.
I mean, they probably had, 18-ish, maybe more. Yeah. There's a dog face back there.
Bunch of porcupines, a dog face. I think there was a narrow line or stars and stripes that was in there as well. But they were all good size too. They were probably, Coke bottle can type size.
Yeah, and this is probably only maybe 300 to 500 gallons, I would guess.
Yeah.
It's hard to guess with the cylinders.
But they definitely love people. They were all about it.
Yeah, then they had 3 tanks here. Then they had a big clownfish tank.
Here was kind of my issue. They had several that were not looking great, pretty roughed up.
Yeah, we're big clownfish people, so.
Paddle fins.
Yeah, this one was really cool because you can really see the big giant males and then the smaller females.
Some lobsters. Those guys are delicious, not going to lie to you.
Yeah, the spiny lobsters.
There's that stars and stripes.
I think that's a mappa.
Oh, it might be. Yeah,
one of the weirder ones. There's the stars and stripes.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, they hung out on that side for whatever reason.
Couple chunks out of his tail there.
Yeah, you'll have that with puffers.
They do like to nip.
Yeah, that one very interactive though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then coming around, they had a venomous tank. This was kind of going into their kind of last tunnel.
Stones and lions.
This was awesome. Just how wide out he was. This is the giant Pacific octopus, and it was absolutely massive.
Yeah, he was definitely showing off for everyone too. Opening up right on the front glass.
Here's another one of my favorites. I will keep one someday. This is I believe they're banded cuttlefish, the dwarf cuttlefish. These are full grown. Such amazing animals. I mean, they're like a pufferfish and a octopus put together, just hovering around.
Their eyes were always moving around, watching what was going on. But you could definitely see the little colors changing on a micro level. It seemed like.
Yeah, you could see like the pigments flashing on a couple of them. Then they had this big ray tank, which they had a couple bonnet heads in. They're probably one of my favorite sharks. They're like a dwarf hammerhead.
Just a mini hammerhead.
Yeah.
Eagle rays, California rays. I think there was a cow ray.
Cow nose, yeah.
Cow nose.
Yeah, but the spotted eagle rays are definitely one of my favorites. These ones are a little grayer than I'm used to. A lot of the times they're like jet black with bright white spots.
Again, I wonder, this one was kind of dimly lit as well in areas, so I'm wondering if it wasn't just lighting. Well, there I am going through the kiddie tunnel.
Yep. Captain needed his picture with the penguins.
There I come, popping up in the middle with me and Mr. Penguin. It was a good time, I'm not going to lie to you.
Business trips, yes. Then, so this is actually cool. This is where that stingray tank had a kind of a beach at the top where there was a drop off into the deeper section.
You could pay to feed the rays and sharks in this little area.
Yeah, so they would kind of do their lap of the deep section, then jet up here where you could actually pet them. Then there was a little quarantine section over there you can see where they had baby rays. So that was our tour of Gatlinburg, Ripley's of the Smokies.
Yeah, it was a pretty good aquarium. I think we were there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So we did spend a decent amount of time there.
Yeah, there was a decent crowd, but we got our way through it. So first off, I guess, do it by freshwater?
Yeah, freshwater. I was pretty disappointed. I think they had 4 tanks, the silver dollar, the piranha, the African cichlids, and then the big catfish.
Yeah, their big South American tank really just felt like a aquarium store rehome tank.
But that was it. There was really nothing freshwater wise that was different or anything that we don't see on a regular basis.
Yeah, the coolest freshwater fish I thought was the alligator gar they kept in their saltwater shark tank. So,
but yeah, that was the freshwater was very, very brief. But yeah, so the saltwater was definitely better. There was definitely things that I would have done differently. The lighting was the biggest.
Yeah, they had, the lighting. So they had the basic saltwater stuff of what you would expect. Yeah. There was nothing that like stood out from any other public aquarium, I didn't think.
Kind of like I said with the Rhinopius before, there could have been several of those things that they had of just a more exciting version of it.
They kind of went with the basic.
Yeah, they missed opportunities in that. The other thing I didn't like was a lot of the signs that were labeled throughout were probably the original signs and haven't been updated. The saltwater big tank had a sea turtle on there, so of course we looked for that for quite a bit and wasn't in there. So if they move through things, I wish they would take that stuff down just so that your regular crowd would know what to look for and what not to.
What they were looking at.
Yeah. Other than that, though, I mean, it was a solid aquarium. I really, enjoyed our time. Saltwater wise was much better than freshwater, but still.
Yeah, it was pretty basic in comparison to other public aquariums, but it was still definitely a decent, good time.
Yeah, if you're down there, would highly recommend going.
So, do you have a rating you'd give it?
I was probably in that 6.5 range. It was it was good. It was smaller.
It was smaller. I thought it was pretty quick.
Yeah, and we took our time and really, obviously, to make the video here and making sure that we went through all of the things thoroughly. But
yeah, it was just so dark. That was my biggest issue. Was it was just such a dark aquarium.
Even the aisleways were very, very dark, and there were a couple times where obviously you're.
I was tripping over kids. I was tripping over kids looking at those boxfish.
Kelly's short, so we're looking through kids trying to find her, but the three of us were having trouble finding each other in the aisleways being as dark as it is. But I mean, other than that, and having some missed opportunities with the types or the more exciting colors, it was really, really good time.
Yeah. So that's our thoughts on Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
Ripley's of the Smokies. So this was just at a random clothing store in Gatlinburg, but they had some horn sharks and a couple cool things in here. But we want to kind of make this a series of going to public aquariums, seeing what's around, kind of just learning and explaining different species and different things about the hobby.
Giving our thoughts of two fish guys running a shop for the big aquariums, and again, what we liked, what we didn't, just another aspect of what we want to bring to you here
at Discover Aquatics.
Also, big shout out, thank you to Jonah for keeping the store open while we were down at the aquarium and Sustainable Aquatics doing our tours. So speaking of Sustainable Aquatics, we were down there, clownfish breeder, so go ahead and tune in next week
for lots and lots of clownfish to come. What you got there, Andrew?
Got some Onyx Picassos and some standard Onyx Perculas, one of my absolute favorites.